Hello, hello. Good to see you guys. Um, well, actually, I can't see you, but moving on. In the book of Ruth, we are now the end of chapter 2, so 217 to 23. And we've just been walking through the book of Ruth. What's all going on in this book? What's all going on? What is God doing in this book? We've talked about so many things to this point, and up to this point, in chapter 2, Ruth Ruth stumbles upon Boaz's field, and then that she is uh, therefore that invited to glean from the fields, to pick from the fields. One, once again, that this was a foreigner, that this was completely unheard of. That she is, after that, that she is invited to eat with them. Well, once again, saw something that was not common, especially during the time of Judges. Now uh, that the chapter is finishing out. I have titled this "Realizing God's Goodness," and this whole dialogue is really Ruth tells Naomi about the kindness of Boaz. So up to this point, she don't know who no, Boaz is. From the text, it seems like she just does not know anything about Boaz, but now that she does. There's some words that are in here that in the Hebrew, I think it's important for us to point out that this idea of a redeemer is what's called in the Hebrew the Goel. And it means to redeem. He's a redeemer. He's a avenger or reclaim as one's own. That's really how the book of Ruth uses it. There's also this word called pagah. Uh, it means to meet, fall upon, pleading, to press against someone, to attack, to kill. It means to ease to either physically attack or molest physically. So that's very clear. So the molest physically, Judges chapter 8, verse 21, Judges chapter 15, verse 12, and Judges 18 and 25. The big theological theme here is once again God's providence. And God's providence is God's invisible hand that you often do not see. It's the best way to describe God's providence. There's some things that are going on here. First, that the word ephah is about a month's worth of grain for a male worker, about 30 to 50 pounds. So take how much you would make in a month, and that's about how much a an ephah is. Barley ripens early, about late April. Wheat ripens later, the beginning of June. Now we're going to reread through the text. 217 to 23. So she gleaned in the field until evening, and then she beat out what she had gleaned. And it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up and went into the city. Her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. she also brought out and gave her what food she had left over after being satisfied. And her mother-in-law said to her, "Where did you glean today? And where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked and said, "The man's name with whom I worked is Boaz." And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead." Naomi also said to her, "The man is a close relative of ours, one of our redeemers, one of our Goels." And Ruth and the Moabite said, "Beside, he said to me, you shall keep close by my young men until they have finished all my harvest." And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, lest in the field you would be assaulted, or you would be pagah," means to be, in this sense, it's being to attack physically and ultimately probably rape. So she kept close to the young women of Boaz, gleaning until the end of the barley and the wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law. This text has really three main points: that the result of Boaz's kindness, 17 and 18, Naomi's inquiry and Ruth's response about the food she acquired in 2:19. Naomi blesses, Naomi's blessing of and Boaz continued kindness for Ruth, verses 20 to 23. Ruth reports back to Naomi how she did that first day. We see here the result of Boaz's kindness. Ruth brings home an ephah of barley. An ephah of barley would have been about 2/3 of a bushel of grain. This has been calculated to about 30 to 50 pounds of grain, which would have been about a month's worth of grain given to male workers. What follows is a dialogue between Ruth and Naomi, how the day went. Two major things happen when she comes back to Naomi. First, there is a dialogue with Naomi and Ruth, how the day went, in verse 19. In this first dialogue, Naomi asks how she acquired the food twice. So she just doesn't ask it once, but twice. Naomi is utterly amazed at how much food Ruth has back with her. Now Ruth responds by saying that she gave it back from Boaz, or that she got it from Boaz. Second, there is a continued dialogue between Ruth and Naomi about Boaz's kindness to Ruth. Ruth pronounces a blessing on Boaz before she finds who it is, and reaffirms that blessing in verse 20. For his kindness to Ruth and Naomi and to her sons, it is evident that his kindness has affected the living, Naomi and Ruth. But how has his kindness now affected the dead? Her the husbands and sons. The next line tells us, one of our redeemers. This is the first time redeemer, Goel, is used. The plural indicates, as we will see, there are multiple people alive who could have redeemed Ruth. This is the first time that it's used here in this book, the word Goel. This is quite the change in behavior from Ruth 1:1 and 20. Ruth continues the dialogue with Naomi on to the continued kindness of Boaz to Ruth by allowing her to continue to glean from the fields and stay close to the women. We see here God's continued care for Ruth and Naomi. Ruth gleans not just from the barley, but from the wheat as well, which would have been about 7 weeks. This idea of a redeemer is very important. Although the redeemer is used 109 times, it's used of God only 19, and it's majority used of a person, a close relative. This person was both responsible for certain duties as well as in ensuring justice and equity for parties that would be marginalized. The Bible identifies 5 things that the Goel, i.e. the Redeemer, was responsible for. First, the purchase of clan property sold out of economic necessity, thus keeping the land in the clan. Buying the clan members out of slavery if they had money. Leviticus 25:47 through 55. In the case of the Redeemer of blood, pursuing and taking vengeance on anyone who killed a clan member. On Numbers 35:12, Numbers 19 chapter, and also Numbers 35 chapter 35 verses 19 to 27, Deuteronomy 19:6, Deuteronomy 19:12, Joshua chapter 20 verses 2 through 9. 4, the fourth way that the Redeemer was used, acting as a clan representative to receive restitution money due to a deceased clan member, Numbers chapter 5 verse 8, Leviticus chapter 6 verses 1 through 7. The fifth, demonstrated by a metaphorical use of the term, assisting clan members in lawsuits to see justice done. Job chapter 19 verse 25, Psalm 119 verse 154, Proverbs 23:11, Jeremiah 50:34. But not only does the Bible identify 5 duties, but there's also roles. So there's that the roles that the Redeemer would have. First, one role that he had was to ensure that the hereditary property of the clan never passed out of the clan. Leviticus 25, or Leviticus chapter 25, verses 25 through 30. To maintain freedom of individuals within the clan by buying back those who have sold themselves into slavery because of poverty. Leviticus chapter 25, verses 47 through 55. Third, to track down and execute murderers of near relatives. Numbers chapter 35, verse 12. Numbers chapter 35, verses 19 through 27. Fourth, to receive restitution money on behalf of a deceased victim of a crime. Numbers chapter 5, verse 8. Fifth, to ensure that justice is served in a lawsuit involving a relative. Job chapter 19, verse 25. Psalm 119, verse 154. Jeremiah 50:34. As we can see from that marrying the family members widow is not a function of the Redeemer. Boaz here goes above and beyond the call of the duty, and does in a operate on the letter of the law prescribed in the Torah, but the spirit of the law. Boaz is a foreshadowing of something greater, a greater Redeemer. In this way, Boaz is a type of Christ, anticipating a greater Redeemer who would accept us as his own word. John chapter 1, verse 12. And as you see, if I would have done all this in this big long section, it would have been very long, probably easily an hour, maybe two. But one thing I'm going to encourage you is to go through the questions, and I'm going to answer the questions. You have a wonderful day.